Well, welcome everybody to another video here in the Washington Football Maniacs YouTube channel. My name is Greg. If you're new here, well, guess what? This channel is based on the Washington Commanders. It's a fan YouTube channel. I am just merely a fan, just talking about the Washington Commanders. But I do try to put out some entertaining content, so please stick around, and if you're enjoying yourself, please consider supporting this channel by subscribing. With that said, let's get into today's video. So we are talking about the draft. So a lot of the people have already, the pundits have already released their draft grades. And of course, they're giving the Washington Commanders anywhere from C+ to a C- for the 2023 draft. Certainly what dropped their draft grade was round 1. Everybody pretty much gave them an F for drafting Emmanuel Forbes, quarterback out of Mississippi State. I've already had a video about Emmanuel Forbes. You can watch that video here. But, I'm taking a wait-and-see approach to Mr. Forbes. I've said it in the other video, my reasons for that, so go watch that video. So let's skip round 1. Let's go into the other round. So Jartavius Martin was drafted in the second round. He's a safety. So now we are probably looking at two guys who's going to be possibly starters in the secondary. We have solidified the secondary. In my opinion, the secondary is set. Now, this does make you wonder what's going to happen with guys like Fuller. I know Fuller is cornerback, probably going to be moved to the slot if he's even going to stay on the team whatsoever at this point. Because now there are possibilities that he could be a cut come training camp. It's a possibility, and maybe not even training camp. It may come before then. June 1st cuts. Who knows? It's coming up in a month. So there you go. Martin fills out a safety need. Now we got, Curl, Martin. We got rid of Bobby McCain. So we have gotten extremely young in the secondary. Of course, we've got Benjamin St. Juste on the other outside. So I'm really excited to see what this secondary is going to do. It looks like now we've solidified the defensive line, the secondary. Which it's amazing. The linebacking crew is still the crew that still kind of a question mark. We know that Jamin Davis really came around last year, but outside of him, we're still not quite sure about that linebacking crew. And what's funny about that, again, the fact that Ron Rivera, ex-linebacker, Jack Del Rio, ex-linebacker. And those are the areas that you feel like, if anything on the defense, they would have been strong there. But there you go. Anyway, then we hop to round 3, and we finally start to address the offensive line. And it's Ricky Stromberg, center out of Arkansas. Center was a bad area for the Washington Commanders last year. Chase Roulier got hurt. Now it's a wonder, is he even going to come back? Tyler Larson, I think he started the season hurt, came in, got hurt, kept switching guys around, because we were just paper thin at center. Now we've addressed that. We picked up some versatile guys. Was it Nate Bates during free agency who can play center and guard, and now Ricky Stromberg, filling out some depth. So hopefully we're going to be good at center. We hopped to round 4. Breeden Daniels, another offensive lineman who can be a guard. Round 5, KJ Henry. Now this draft pick was a need because of Shaka Toney getting suspended for a year for gambling. So they needed to fill that position. So you go out and you draft KJ Henry, who literally probably can wind up being just as effective as Tony. So they needed that. They picked up an area of need there in round 5. We don't know how Chase Young is going to be this year. We're hoping he's going to be effective because there's no 5th round option being picked up. So it's a make it or break it year for Chase Young. We're going to have Smith Williams back there as well. So, we need some guys to rotate in to give Young a breather. We needed some depth. Round 6, Chris Rodriguez, running back. This was an intriguing pickup. I saw some highlights. This guy looks like he could be a guy who's the short yardage, got to pick up that tough 1 yard, 2 yard, 3rd and short, 4th and short yards. We could use somebody like that, to spell Brian Robinson. We don't want Robinson to get all banged up. And we also know that Gibson is heading into his final year as well. So let's see what Chris Rodriguez can do for us. I would like a guy that we can bring in on these tough yardage and, those jumbo packages, so to speak, and be able to pick up those tough yards and not have to use Brian Robinson as much. And then finally, filling the rest of it out, they do address the linebacker in the 7th round of Andre Jones. So, the funny thing is, before the draft, I said I always felt like best player available is the option that you needed to go. But I may have also made the joke that usually what happens is when I make that statement, the opposite is going to happen, right? So what will happen is I will say that, and my reasoning for that is you get the best player in those positions, and then eventually you're going to have a better team because you got the best player in the NFL in each one of those positions. You're going to build up a championship team. And it seemed plausible. And then what Ron Rivera and Marty Herney does is they turn around and they do a draft for players of need, positions of need. And this is exactly from round 1 to round 7, exactly what they did. Now they did, they certainly, they went up in the draft in round 5 to get KJ Henry. And so, that wasn't a reach. The rest of it, I'm not sure. Certainly a lot of people will say that Emmanuel Forbes was a reach. I don't know. In time, it will tell if the rest of them were a reach. But certainly, in my opinion, this draft it spells we drafted for need. And that may not necessarily be a bad thing because you want your players to be young, but you do tend to want to have the best players in those positions. And you don't want to necessarily always draft players of need because you'll wind up sometimes just having, we had to have a linebacker, so we drafted this guy, and, you wind up getting kind of a mediocre type of player. So my hope is that with this draft, when they draft a cornerback, when they draft a center, it's because that was the best center on the board at the time of their pick, and so that's who they picked. But it remains to be seen because the thing is, you can't really truly grade a draft until probably 2-3 years later. As a matter of fact, we need to do a video where we can turn around, we can look at maybe the 2019 draft or 2020 draft. Probably should be a little bit more fair since we have Ron Rivera came in 2020. We probably should look at that and look at that draft and say, okay, I think it's time now that we can grade this draft. Players have had a chance to be in the NFL for a few years now, and so I think we can probably grade those draft picks and give you a good estimate on what these guys can do. Anyway, I think that would be a great next video. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Overall, I think this, I have to agree with everybody else. I think this was a solid C draft. I think it was more of a draft for need than anything else. I am just not convinced that they necessarily drafted the best player available at the time that they were up, especially in the first round, because we know that there were much better players on the board at that point when they picked. So I think that's what really lowers their grade. Had they picked, a Gonzalez or somebody like that, I think their draft grades would have been much higher. That's my opinion. So let me know in the comments what you think. And guess what? I will see you in the next one. Hey, you stayed until the very end. Thank you so much. Watch another one right now.